But no, folks, I do not see him starting Marcel Ruiz plug and play because I think he has a couple other players already in mind. Or else he would have been bringing Marcel Ruiz this whole time. What's up, folks? Omar here from Goalsided, here to give you guys another bonus episode of La Selección de México. I'm going to be going over my reactions to their latest roster call-ups, the finalized roster call-ups ahead of their 2 upcoming friendlies, and then ahead of the Gold Cup this summer. Stay tuned and I'll give you guys my predictions for the best lineup that El Vasco Aguirre can put out with this roster. And I'll also give you guys my predictions for the results of the matchups and an overall prediction for the Gold Cup. Does Mexico win it? What are their expectations? Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We're going to have a whole bunch of content for you guys over the summer, from our vlogs as we travel to game days, to our overall podcast episodes, to reaction videos for everything going on this summer, TST, national team matches, and more. Yeah, folks, welcome back. I love talking about La Selección de México. They're going to be coming to the Bay Area for that matchup against Japan. As of right now, I don't have tickets to that matchup against Japan. I'm a little bit torn on whether I want to make it out or not. We'll see if I make it last minute here in Oakland. One thing I also noticed is I need a new Mexico jersey. This is the latest jersey that I got, but I honestly want to cop that black and gold one that they have out right now. It's pretty sick. But as mentioned, folks, I'm going to be going through the call-up. We had original call-up roster of about 30-something heads that they had to get down to about 23 to 26 total players. We finally got that final list. There was even a preemptive list, which had 7 to 8 extra heads, plus those America players that were kind of iffy if they made it to the Club World Cup or not. We just now got that final list, so let's get into that from top to bottom, and I'll give you guys my reactions. All right, pues ahí está la lista final de la Selección de México. For the keepers, we got Luis Ángel Malagón at keep. We got Altala Rangel, and we got Memo Ochoa. Memo Ochoa making his way back to a call-up. In the defense, we got Jorge Sanchez making his way back, Israel Reyes, Cesar Montes, Johan Vázquez, Chiquete Orozco, Jesus Gallardo, Mateo Chavez with his first call-up, and Julian Araujo from Bournemouth. In the midfield, we got Edson Alvarez, we got Charlie Rodriguez, we got Eric Lira, Luis Chavez, Gilberto Mora coming back after getting one of those Molero call-ups, but about to get his first caps with an official tournament with the Gold Cup, and Marcel Ruiz, which I know we'll talk about in a bit. A lot of people asking for him. Forwards, we got El Piojo Alvarado, we got Orbelín Pineda, we got Santi Jiménez, Raúl Jiménez, El Ángel Sepúlveda del Cuate, Alexis Vega, Chino Huerta, Julián Quiñones, and Efraín Alvarez to wrap it up. So a lot to unpack here. Just overall, I would just, maybe first thoughts, I would say, I think Mexico is honestly doing the right job towards putting the best roster together for 2026. I think they're seeing this as precious time, Vasco Aguirre and Rafa Márquez, to get as much of the core team together for an official tournament, for competitive matches, including those 2 against Switzerland and Japan, and using that time to try different things and to make sure that the team has as much chemistry as possible. I don't think other teams in CONCACAF are doing the same, especially the US, but I honestly think overall this is somewhat the best call-up that El Vasco Aguirre could have done, barring 1 or 2 little nitpicky things here and there, but overall I think he is cooking. Let's start from the top at the goalkeepers. Malagón being there, 100% he's going to be the starter. I do think he has been a little bit sketchier, a little bit less secure lately with his play with America, and a little bit the last round with La Selección de México. A Hail Mary, there could be a little bit of something there that Tala Rangel can try to take advantage of and maybe come up with some form of miracle, but I doubt it. Guillermo Ochoa being there, a lot of people are saying that it's a way that Vasco's going to just sneak him in like he did with El Conejo Pérez back in 2010, but I don't see that happening. I don't think Guillermo Ochoa will see the light of day on the field. I think he's there for leadership. I think he's there for the locker room, and that's about it. Malagón has it pretty secure. He just has to kind of clean up a lot of his play, a lot of his blunders, his play in the air. If he can provide that security, I think Vasco's going to ride him the whole way. For the back line, for the defenders, the same as I think it is for all the other positions. It's the core of what we think 2026 is going to be, plus some youngsters, which I'm excited about. I love those type of call-ups. We get the return of Jorge Sanchez and Chiquete Orozco after they got some good minutes now with Cruz Azul, and they did really well, making it to one semifinal in league and then winning the CONCACAF Champions. Chiquete Orozco still wasn't getting every minute with Cruz Azul, so I don't know. He's a baller, but he just wasn't super consistent with that. And then obviously the revelation with Mateo Chavez. There's no more Stitch Angulo, who is a favorite of El Vasco Aguirre up until recently, even at the Nations League. But Mateo Chavez gets that call up, which I 100% love, because we've been screaming out on the podcast. In one of the few ways that you have to incentivize the youth Mexican player to go to Europe is to call them up to the national team when they go to Europe, when they risk it. And that's exactly what Mateo Chavez did, and he immediately gets a call-up. I'm all for that. Let's go. We're cooking. We get Araujo back. I hope he gets some minutes, but it might be a bit of an uphill battle with Jorge Sanchez back, with Israel Reyes, who might even be the starter. We'll talk about that in a second. He's been playing well, and he played well in Nations League. And then Johan Vazquez, Cesar Montes. A lot of people were saying that Israel Reyes might be coming straight for Cesar Montes' spot, but El Vasco has been putting him at outside back or right center back, depending on the formation, so we'll see. The other thing to call up for Mateo Chavez is he would be a direct backup, the only other left-footed back behind Gallardo, which makes it pretty possible that that he will get some minutes either in some of the friendlies against some really good matchups or in the group stages as a change of pace or to get Gallardo some rest. In the midfield, we got the biggest switch up with the youngest of players. The biggest call out being Gilberto Mora, 16-year-old midfielder from Tijuana, coming in, skipping a couple of levels, U18s, U20s, U23s, just to go straight to the Mexican national team, to the senior squad. 100% love that. I think it's a sign of a great footy nation when they do that. We see Argentina doing that with Masantuono, Ecuador doing that with Kendry Páez. I mean, Bellingham did that at the national team level at like 18. Gilberto Mora is going to get the chance to break more Mexico records, being 16 years old and playing at this Gold Cup. I hope he gets some minutes. We also get Marcel Ruiz for his first call-ups. A lot of people were screaming for him to come in, calling him the best complete Liga MX Mexican center mid. I think that's pretty arguable. Do I see him getting a lot of minutes at this tournament? Not so much, because El Vasco has his trusted guys. He even probably trusts Charlie Rodriguez over him, who had a really solid season. I'm not going to lie about that. He maybe didn't get the as big of stats as Marcel Ruiz, but what he did for Cruz Azul can't go unnoticed. We get it. He's a meme, but he balled out. Eric Lira is there as well. And Luis Chavez is just like kind of flying under the radar. I mean, hopefully he's brushed up his free kick game, because that's honestly all he's got for Mexico. At the forwards, we get a big surprise with Angel Sepúlveda being on the call-ups. I thought he was going to be one of the players that would get dropped off of the list, but he made it all the way through. Basically taking the spot of Memo Martinez. I'm surprised, but I'm also excited for Angel Sepúlveda, el cuate, el ángel del gol, le dicen. Had some big moments at Querétaro that really went unnoticed when a lot of people were asking for Memo Martinez because he was doing good at Pumas. Angel Sepúlveda had already been doing really good with Querétaro, completely unnoticed. So I'm really glad he's getting his flowers. He's been that guy for a good while now in Liga MX, doing it at Cruz Azul now, beating out extranjeros like Yakumakis and El Toro Fernandez at Cruz Azul for the starting spot. Big kudos to him, and I can see him getting those garbage time minutes when Mexico's up or when they're down, or I don't know if they're already secured a spot and there's just some minutes to be had. Efrain Alvarez was probably the biggest surprise in my opinion. I know his fitness level has increased a lot since starting with Juan Carlos Osorio at Tijuana. So I'm really excited for him coming into Chivas now if El Vasco sees him at that level. But I think there's a lot of forwards there. Quiñones didn't even get a lot of minutes at the last Nations League, so I see it very difficult for Efrain Alvarez to get some minutes. But under 23-year-old player, attacking player that's getting minutes with the senior squad, I love it. I think the biggest question is going to be, do we see that double forward formation that El Vasco loves with both Santi Jimenez and Raul Jimenez. I don't see a way around it, except for maybe in the scrimmages, just because he'll want to test a different formation or something. But I think until we see something different, we should expect for both of those strikers to be in there. Now, some players that didn't make it from that previous list that I mentioned, we have Alex Padilla, we have El Tiva Sepúlveda, Emilio Lara, Jeremy Marquez, Henry Martin, Irving Lozano, Juan Jose Purata, Jesus Angulo, and Ramon Juarez. The unfortunate players that had to get cut off of there. Some surprises, some not so much. I was surprised Emilio Lara even made the cut overall. Way out of left field. I think everyone forgot about him after he left America. He had one good season, one and done, and then kind of fell from the stars at that point. Alex Padilla was a bit surprising to not see make it all the way through, but somebody had to be cut for Guillermo Ochoa to come in as the locker room leader in that case. And he didn't have a great season with Pumas. So I think El Vasco probably send him home with some homework to do a lot better for the next call-ups. In all honesty, he might have some internal discussions to be had about whether the move to Pumas was the right decision, because unless they turn that boat around, he might be eating some goals for a good while and exposing himself instead of being that golden kid that's working up the ranks at Bilbao. Tiva Sepúlveda makes sense. There's a lot of center backs, a lot of defenders there with the selección, and he's not one of the elite ones, so I can't blame them there. Jeremy Marquez had a really solid season with Atlas. I would have loved to have seen him there, but I think everyone would have lost their shit if they found another way to get Marcel Ruiz off of those call-ups, so had to be sacrificed. Henry Martin and Chucky Lozano, both injured, apparently were going to be contemplated. That's probably why Angel Sepúlveda made it through. But with their injuries, they had to be dropped out. That's unfortunate. I was kind of looking forward to seeing Chucky Lozano with the Mexico jersey again. Something kind of tells me that we'll see it at some point before the World Cup, and who knows, maybe at the World Cup. Juan Jose Purata is a really interesting one. He had a super solid season with Tigres. Basically forced his way into that starting lineup, and I don't know. I don't know why I think he was the captain towards the end, but he has that dog in him. One of the very few kind of veteran Mexican center back that has that dog in them to body the extranjeros that the other teams have. This is a big dude, got some experience in MLS, came back to Tigres, and is just making his own luck. But yeah, unfortunately, there's too many good center backs right now. Maybe go to Europe, my guy. Jesus Angulo, El Canelo. I think there's too many midfielders at the moment, but huge standout season at Toluca. Sorry, probably one of those that Marcel Ruiz took a spot. And then Ramon Juarez, too many center backs at the moment. I think maybe one center back off from that. And he didn't finish the season that great. He was coming off the bench for America, and America that kind of didn't finish that great either. So I think Ramon Juarez has a bright future. Also one that I would say go to Europe. Secure your own spot, my guy. The other couple ones that I think would have been contemplated here would have been the Pachuca players, maybe a Monterrey player. Pachuca being Cotorro Gonzalez, which I hope goes to Chivas, and Elias Montiel. They decided to go to the Club World Cup instead. I don't blame them, but I did see Marc Rosas and a bunch of people saying, if you got the call up to the Gold Cup, which is going to lead you to a World Cup, there's no way you should have declined that. I don't know, Club World Cup is pretty baller, especially because they're going to play against Real Madrid, even though they just played against Real Madrid in the Intercontinental. That could be a great opportunity for him to be seen. He won the young, Elias Montiel won the Young Player of the Year award at the last Intercontinental. Maybe he's trying to go to Europe ASAP. And then for Monterrey, probably Victor Guzman El Toro at center back. There was probably a spot for him there, the one that Chiquito Orozco's in. But chose to go as well. I don't blame him. They have a pretty stacked squad, some big names, and they're trying to get bigger names. So he's probably trying to stand out there. All right, so let's get into the nitty gritty. Let's get into some of my predictions. If we're talking about formations first, just shape, I would say that El Vasco will probably keep his 4-4-2, especially at the beginning of the Gold Cup. He seems to switch to his 3-4-2-1, 3-4-1-2 formation if he plays a bit stronger teams, like the semifinal against Canada. That's when he kind of started trying that double striker formation. I can see him switching to that against Switzerland because they are stronger teams than the teams he has in his groups at the Gold Cup, but also because they're scrimmages, and that's what they're for, to try out players, try out formations, try out systems that you're probably going to need to have ready for the World Cup. But like I mentioned, I think his strongest formation, I think what he'll honestly go with against the Dominican Republic, against Costa Rica, against Suriname at the Gold Cup is going to be a 4-4-2. And my predicted best lineup for that is Malagón at keep, Gallardo on the left, Vasquez left center back, Montes right center back, Israel Reyes at right back. I think he will start there. I don't think it's that big of a surprise, but he would bench 2 right backs with Jorge Sanchez and Julian Araujo. I can only dream that Julian Araujo would take over the spot. Maybe they'll share some time. There is 3 matches in the group stage. At Gold Cup, I think there will be minutes to share. Alexis Vega, I would say, on the left side, on the left mid position. He always puts him there, cuts into the right and shoots. And he had an amazing end to the season with Toluca, so I can see that happening easily. Edson, center mid. Luis Romo, I would think, starts at center mid. That's how we finished in the Nations League final against Panama. And then El Piojo Alvarado on the right because he seems to love him. And then up top, Raul Jimenez and Santi Jimenez. Pretty straightforward. Those are my thoughts. I could see things switching up a little bit. I don't think he's going to switch in Quiñones for Piojo on the right or Chino Huerta on the left for Alexis Vega, even though they're probably at bigger name squads. He seems to trust Piojo a lot. And then Alexis Vega is one of the hottest players at the moment for Mexico. I don't think he's going to touch him. As mentioned earlier, it wouldn't surprise me if against Switzerland, he switches to like a 3-4-2-1, which is what we saw against Canada at the Nations League semifinal last year. What we thought would have been a much stronger Canada with bigger name players, with Jonathan David, Alphonso Davies, and a lot more players to take care of. I could see that against Switzerland, or even just to test it. And if they do that, I would see Malagón, obviously a keeper, Reyes, Montes, Vasquez in that 3, because that's very similar to what he did with Canada, except he had Edson instead of Montes, because I think Cesar Montes got a red card or something. Gallardo on the left, Piojo on the right, out wide as basically carrileros, right, up and down the pitch. Edson Alvarez and Luis Romo in the middle. Maybe instead of Luis Romo, different functionality like a Charlie that runs all over the pitch. But no, folks, I do not see him starting Marcel Ruiz plug and play, because I think he has a couple other players already in mind, or else he would have been bringing Marcel Ruiz this whole time. But would I love it? Yes. Alexis Vega and Santi Jimenez, or Alexis Vega by himself in like a 1, and then Santi and Raul in the 2 right in front of them, depending if he does 2-1, 1-2. That's what I could see him doing, and then obviously all of the different flavors of switching that up for the scrimmages and any extra minutes in the group stages. I can see him bringing in Eric Lira into that middle. I can see him bringing in Chino Huerta to start one of those matches. But unfortunately, for all of us that want new generational faces, I don't see major minutes for Marcel Ruiz, for Gilberto Mora, for Efrain Alvarez. If there were one of them that I would love it, I would love Gilberto Mora to be given the reins, just like Andres Guardado did at one point. They just threw him in and said, you know what, trial by fire, and if you survive, the spot's yours. But maybe we get some of these folks into some bigger roles after this summer. With regards to scores, let me give you guys my predictions. Let me know your predictions in the comments below and what you guys think of what I think. I think Mexico is going to go undefeated in their 2 scrimmages. Yes, I know that they're tough matches. Switzerland is a tough team, but I could see Mexico get a 1-0 win against Switzerland. They've had a couple of tough matches recently. I think they tied North Ireland, tied like Serbia. I think Mexico can beat them, and they're doing really good, Mexico, at letting in minimal goals at the back. I could see that happening. I'm predicting a 2-2 tie. I think both teams can draw blood. And then with regards to the Gold Cup, I think it's 100% mandatory for Mexico to win it. Mexico has been on this path to try to establish themselves as the CONCACAF kings again, especially with all the slip-ups that the U.S. has had. Canada not really doing anything with it after scoring the most points at the last qualifiers. And to do that, Mexico would have to win this, especially because the U.S. and Canada are bringing handicapped squads with injuries and players not wanting to participate like the U.S. is. I don't see any other reason for Mexico not to win this. And Mexico's bringing a complete A squad. They're prepping for the next World Cup. I think they will have the intensity bestowed upon them from their coaching staff needed to win this and to continue their upwards trajectory. The toughest matchup, in my opinion, at the group stage is going to be Costa Rica. One, because they seem to have really good upcoming classes of youngsters, a lot of them in Europe. And then two, they have El Piojo Herrera. He understands Mexican footy. He has a bit of a chip on his shoulder with La Selección de México. He's definitely going to go all out to beat them. So that's going to be a good match for sure. But Dominican Republic and Suriname, I don't really see any difficulties for Mexico. Suriname has some big name players that can cause some problems for Mexico, but I think overall law of averages, Mexico shouldn't have any problems at the group stage. Minimum 7 points. I don't even know who would get that draw. Maybe Costa Rica. But Mexico has to make it out first for sure. The path to the final can be pretty difficult, but like I mentioned, if they face Canada, I don't think that should be difficult by any means. And then if they face the U.S., it can be very difficult just because of the quality of the players the U.S. has. But with the amount of players that they're missing, Balogun, Pulisic, Weston McKennie, that should make it so 100% Mexico needs to win that. That's all that I had for By Mexico predictions, folks. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe for more content below, and we'll talk soon. Peace.